The Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association weighs in on a key Ring of Fire issue. Thunder Bay City Council kicks off its 2014 budget talks. And Liberal leader Justin Trudeau announces a shocking Senate shift. Good evening and thank you for joining us. The head of a regional political group feels it's time to throw support behind Noront Resources' proposed Ring of Fire project. NOMA President Dave Canfield believes politicians overhyped the chromite project proposed by Cliffs Natural Resources. At a meeting of the NOMA executive today, a plan was also pitched to tackle a challenge facing EMS. But as Dennis Ward reports, there's no money for the proposed solution.
Despite the hype, NOMA President Dave Canfield says some within his organization believe the Cliffs Chromite project was never moving ahead. But Canfield says there is a company committed to pushing forward in the Ring of Fire, and that's Noront Resources. The company was ready and willing to use a north-south corridor as proposed by Cliffs, but in its recently released environmental assessment, Noront has gone back to its preferred east-west transportation corridor.
I think we all eventually realize that there will be more of a circle road. It'll go, east-west. That's ready to go now, so let's jump on that one. And it'll probably come right around. And so you're going to have, that just makes sense. If you look at any infrastructure, and if you're going to connect the communities, if you're going to connect the dots, that's how you're going to have to do it. But it's where do you start? Well, you start where the work has been done and where, strike where the iron's hot, and it's hot right there right now.
At its annual general meeting last year, NOMA members aired their frustration with senior levels of government over a lack of movement on the Ring of Fire. Canfield doesn't see that happening this year. He says Premier Kathleen Wynne is much more committed than Dalton McGuinty. NOMA will be making a Roads to Resources pitch to provincial politicians next month. Another challenge that will be pushed at the coming Good Roads Conference is a solution for non-urgent transportation. Superior North EMS Chief Norm Gale has put together a new strategy.
In the city of Thunder Bay, there would be an alternate entity of some fashion that would be not paramedics and not ambulances, but let's say transportation technicians that would move patients between facilities. This would be much more efficient and it would be much more reliable because these calls would not have to compete with 911 calls.
It's going to be around $1 million to set up this non-urgent patient transfer. You can't keep tying up ambulances and stuff. We know that. The lens is on side. The money's not there. Bring the money.
Dennis Ward, TBT News.
Thunder Bay City Councillor Rebecca Johnson has some cuts she'd like to see to the city's proposed 2014 budget. An overview of the document was presented at City Hall last night. Johnson feels a 3.45% increase to the local tax levy is considerable, and she says collecting more taxes comes in addition to hikes in water rates and utilities outside the realm of the city, such as hydro and telephone services. Council will be going through the budget line by line over the next few weeks, and Johnson has some cost-cutting measures in mind.
I certainly think we need to be out of the daycare business. I don't think that that's something that the citizenry, we need to have that. We have enough not-for-profits and private businesses in that area. I think that we can be looking at some other potential cuts.
City-run daycares are facing significant challenges and are in need of a 50% budget increase this year to maintain current services. Meantime, City Manager Tim Camiso has provided Council a list of possible budget savings.
Items that are in the budget right now that they can remove or reduce or eliminate or defer. And it'll bring the budget down further by about almost 1%, but it amounts to about $1 million.
The list given to Council features 12 items, including reductions in recreation and culture, legal services, and a reduced contribution to the Clean, Green and Beautiful Reserve Fund. Meanwhile, the size of Dryden's budget deficit has doubled. The mayor and city manager held a press conference this morning to announce the city is facing a $4 million deficit as it goes into the 2014 budget planning process. That's an increase of $2 million since November. They attribute the increase to a newly discovered $1 million accounting error made in 2011. There's also been a $1 million drop in tax revenues due to the reassessment of Domtar's Dryden mill. The sale of the Marathon pulp mill property has fallen through. Town officials are expressing frustration at the loss of economic opportunities from the cleanup of the industrial site, but the deal isn't dead just yet. John Thompson explains.
Nearly 5 years after a complex bankruptcy permanently closed the Marathon pulp mill, it looked like a deal to tear down and clean up the industrial site was at hand. The Illinois-based Green Investment Group had a deal to purchase the property in May of 2013 on the condition that it contribute $2 million to the $4.8 million previous owner Tembec is paying to clean up all known environmental damage. GIG was unable to produce its share by the January 23rd deadline, and Marathon town manager Brian Teixeira could do nothing but watch the process's clock turn back to zero.
It's disappointing, and I think at the end of the day, the straw that broke the camel's back here was the fact that the MOE had imposed an additional $2 million in financial assurance over and above what Tembec was required to commit, and Green Investment couldn't come up with the money. Council argued this point with the MOE, and at the end of the day, for whatever reasons, the $2 million in financial assurance stuck, and Green Investment couldn't come up with it.
Green Investment claimed to have had clients prepared to take on roles in recycling and generating energy from waste, which encouraged Mayor Rick Dumas. Now that the deal has fallen through, he sees the town's loss compounded by the loss of the economic development the cleanup would have brought to Marathon.
We don't have the opportunity we would have had with Green Investment because Tembec is just going to basically do the cleanup that they were ordered to do, and no real economic opportunities going forward. We'll have to go through a whole nother process in acquiring the lands and through tax registrations and so on and so forth. So we were excited about the opportunity with Green Investment, but we're not so excited about the opportunities with Tembec going forward. So we'll see how that unfolds.
According to the Ministry of the Environment, Tembec is now free to pursue other offers, but Ministry Representative Lisa Brigadier says MOE's priority is ensuring Tembec remains on the hook for the cleanup.
The Ministry of the Environment has ensured that there is a responsible party that remains today responsible for the site and responsible for the environmental requirements at the property. And this will ensure that the town of Marathon and the taxpayers of Ontario are not left with an abandoned property.
Tembec was unavailable for comment. As for the Green Investment Group, President Ray Stillwell says it has every intention to close the transaction in the near future, and that it's taking what it calls several approaches to satisfy the conditions of the Ministry of the Environment. John Thompson, TBT News.
The president of Canada's largest private sector union was in Thunder Bay today to prepare for a nationwide campaign. Unifor leaders met with local union members to discuss how they plan on defending the rights of Canadians in the workplace moving forward. Courtney Rutherford reports.
When you start to eliminate unions and weaken unions, it lowers the standards right across the country.
Unifor President Jerry Dias isn't afraid to show his frustrations when it comes to what he calls a political crisis.
Working people are under the biggest attack by the right that they've ever had in the history of the country. This is really about what our country is going to look like. This is about jobs for young people. This is about making sure that we preserve the middle class. So we're going to have a good discussion about it, and we're going to have something to say about it.
The discussions Dias is talking about are taking place in 20 Canadian cities. The talks revolve around Unifor's protest against the federal government's Bill C-525. The bill, also known as the Employees Voting Rights Act, proposes changes to the rules for forming and dissolving unions. Dominic Pasqualino is a Local 1075 president. He says unions are the backbone of our society.
People are realizing that you just can't leave big business to take care of things because at the end of the day, they're just going to take care of their own interests. I think it's important that working people take care of their interests so that it's good for society in general.
The CAW and CEP unions merged last spring to form Unifor. The union represents 300,000 people across Canada in more than 20 sectors. Pasqualino says it's about coming together to build a strategy.
Certainly don't want the Conservative government in power. They have admitted that they're going to go and hurt the working class people, and we're trying to make sure that that doesn't happen.
The Unifor leaders also made a stop in Sudbury and will finish their national tour in St. John's on February 27th. Courtney Rutherford, TBT News.
After years of negotiation, officials with the Lake Helen First Nation have signed documents with the province, which will see their reserve triple in size. Chief Pierre Pelche says the larger land base will be positive for future economic development. The deal will see about 600 acres of land near Nipigon added to the Lake Helen First Nation. Lakehead Public School Board is losing its Director of Education. Kathy Semenuk announced during a regular school board meeting last night that she's decided to retire at the end of the summer. Semenuk began working for the board in 1978 and has worked her way up to become Director of Education in July of 2009. She says it's not only the right time for her family, but for the organization as well. She's had a number of accomplishments during her time at the helm, but says there are many things she's very proud of.
In the last 5 years, there's been many things that the Lakehead District School Board has taken on that I've been part of. It's, the building and opening of a new secondary school, the additions at Woodcrest, the implementation of full-time kindergarten, the work that we've done in parent involvement, in student success. There's just too many to mention. And those are the big things. But for me, in the last 36 years, it's been every day coming to work.
Semenuk says she doesn't look at it as retiring, but refocusing her energy. Her last day will be August 31st. The announcement comes just 1 month after the Catholic School Board's Director of Education announced her retirement. Joan Powell will end her term in April. Well, the major cutbacks that have been hitting Sears Canada locations have now made their way to Thunder Bay. The company issued a news release today saying it's modifying their store structure by eliminating mid-tier management staff. A total of 624 employees were laid off across Canada today, and unconfirmed reports say 6 of those layoffs were at the Thunder Bay location. Sears spokesperson Alicia Richler says the restructuring will lead to a more efficient system for serving customers. There have been long-standing rumors about possible store closures, but Richler says the streamlining will allow them to keep all existing stores open. Some longtime Thunder Bay businesses are making some big changes. 2 local athletic stores are merging, while a local sports shop is closing its doors. After 3 decades in business on Simpson Street, the owners of Dave Wilson Sports have decided to retire. A closing out sale starts tomorrow. Co-owners Dave Wilson and Vicky Slater say they will officially stay open until the end of March to round out to exactly 30 years. And in the time they've been open, they've seen some pretty notable customers.
Yeah, the Stall Boys, Patrick Sharp, the Pirates. Just about every NHL player that's in the NHL has been here.
Well, Dave and I met actually bowling, and we have been partners for going on 37 years. I actually worked for CBQ, and when he opened the business in 1983, he ran it by himself for the first year, so I decided it's time to come and help him. And 29 years later, I've been with him.
Meanwhile, the owner of Fresh Air Experience says they'll be merging with Cycle Path and Static. The Fresh Air store on Victoria Avenue, which has been around for 45 years, will remain open until the spring. The newly merged stores will then be located at the Cycle Path location on May Street, but a new name has yet to be decided on. The province is spending $3.2 million to replace the Swamp River Bridge west of Shibandwin. The contract was awarded to LH North Limited. That project along Highway 11 will create 32 temporary jobs, and work is expected to get underway in the spring. Students at Confederation College received some inspiration today from a motivational speaker and breakdancer. Luca Leslegs Patuelli was born with a rare disorder that limits joint movements and muscle growth. But the disorder did not stop him from creating his own style of breakdancing. His presentation is called No Excuses, No Limits. And along with giving an amazing performance, Patuelli tries to inspire students to reach for their goals, regardless of any challenges they may face. He says he tries to encourage people to live their life with limitless possibilities.
For me, people never assumed I'd be a dancer, and I love music, and I found ways to create dance and do it my own way. And so right now we're trying to really promote that, and we teach dance to people of all abilities, because we try to tell them that it's the littlest movement that makes the biggest difference. It's not the big moves, it's the way you perform it.
It was very inspiring. I was almost crying listening to just the way he thinks about life and all that stuff.
For the next couple of months, Patuelli is planning on speaking at schools across Quebec and Ontario. And at the end of February, his international breakdancing crew called Ill Abilities will be going on tour. And Thunder Bay residents will be braving the cold to help the homeless next month. The second annual Coldest Night of the Year Walk is being held in support of Grace Place on Simpson Street. And Thunder Bay is one of 64 cities across Canada joining the fight against homelessness and poverty. Last year, the local event raised $31,000 and drew out 20 teams and a total of 150 walkers. This year, Grace Place hopes to double all of those stats. The walk comes in 3 lengths in downtown South Core area, and organizers hope the walk falls on a night that doesn't live up to the event's cold title.
We have a 5, 10, 10K or 2K walk through the downtown area here, South Core, and during well, we hope it's not the coldest night of the year, and we hope that it's a little bit warmer than the weather has been so far. And we're trying to raise money for this project.
The walks will take place on February 22nd. Donations of canned food, clothes, or money are also being accepted at the Grace Place location. We hope that it isn't that cold and that they have a great turnout.
Yeah, we'll replace the cold with another four-letter word, Fiona, warm, or maybe I should say warmer, because it seems we finally got our warm day of the week today.
Yeah, one day. That's all we get, apparently. Yeah, it did warm up today, and not quite as warm as some of us might have liked. Could have used a couple more degrees to hit the seasonal high of about -9 for this time of year. But we did hit -13, and considering we started out with a wind chill of -31 to start the day, and wind chill went down to -17, it definitely was an improvement. Still got a few complaints from people that it wasn't quite warm enough. But, you know, we can only do so much. It was mostly cloudy, but the winds were relatively light, and that's what's going to be key over the next little while. Now, in the last 24 hours, we had this bit of snow start to develop into the region. It's been moving through today, and that's what's going to hit Thunder Bay later on. Right now, Red Lake is seeing some light snow. Fort Frances, mainly cloudy. The snow is, for the most part, past them. They might see a few flurries later on tonight. But you can see the warmer temperatures, single digits, -6 for Fort Frances, -8 for Atikokan. And to the east, we have still in the slightly cooler double digits, -13 for Greenstone, -12 for Marathon. Partly cloudy as you head into the Sault Ste. Marie region. They're finally out of that snow squall situation that they've been dealing with for the last couple of days. Now tonight, temperatures are going to drop just a little bit, -15, but we'll also possibly get another couple of centimeters of snow. That's not a lot, but just a little bit to whiten things up a bit, and temperatures will just take a very slight dip, and then tomorrow, we've got the cooler air moving in. Now, the one thing to note, though, is that the winds are not going to be as strong. So we're not going to be dealing with the wind chill values that we have been dealing with, even though the temperatures are still below seasonal values. And unfortunately, that cool air from the Arctic continues to sink down. We're within this polar vortex region. So what we usually see as temperatures is pushed well to the south of us, as many news stories have been talking about the winter storms to the south. We're still within that Arctic air, so don't expect any sudden warm-ups over the next little while, but we are going to see fairly consistent temperatures over the next few days.
Gotta love those two words, polar vortex.
I think those are going to be the key words of the year.
I'm afraid so. All right, thanks very much, Fiona. Well, a surprise move on Parliament Hill today as Justin Trudeau told Liberal senators they will no longer be welcome in his caucus. Details on that story and more for you as your Wednesday News Hour continues.
What's your leader supposed to do? What's he going to tell you?
Well, we'll wait and see.
Liberal leader Justin Trudeau has kicked Liberal senators out of his caucus. They will all now sit as independent senators. Trudeau says it's a way to reform the Senate right now without opening up the Constitution. Julie Van Dusen has more.
This morning, Liberal senators arrived at a surprise meeting, unaware that their job description was about to change.
What's your leader supposed to do? What's he going to tell you?
Well, we'll wait and see.
Leader Justin Trudeau strode into the room to deliver the news. Behind closed doors, he told the senators that from now on, they would be sitting as independents.
It was a difficult conversation.
His goal, he says, is to take partisanship and patronage out of the Senate.
This is about doing the right thing.
Trudeau says it's all being done without a complicated constitutional change.
I challenge the Prime Minister to match this action.
The Tories say that it's all optics.
Today, Mr. Trudeau announced a smokescreen to distance himself from the Auditor General's report.
Auditor General Michael Ferguson has been combing through the expenses of all senators for weeks in the wake of a scandal that has ensnared former Conservative senators Mike Duffy, Pam Wallen, and Patrick Brazo. Ferguson's report has not been released yet, but Tom Mulcair also questioned Trudeau's timing.
We might be seeing interesting things coming from the Auditor General.
Mulcair says Trudeau voted against a similar NDP proposal last fall.
What they've done is a complete about-face.
The leader of the new independent Liberal senators, James Cowan, says he's still a Liberal and that he will continue to talk to the elected Liberal MPs.
I suspect that not a great deal will change.
That provoked a mocking response from Stephen Harper.
I suspect that not a great deal will change. That has to be the understatement of the year.
But Justin Trudeau says this is a change and it's just the beginning. He says if he becomes Prime Minister, all of the senators that he names will be independent and chosen through a nonpartisan, transparent process. Julie Van Dusen, CBC News, Ottawa.
The Minister of Veterans Affairs personally apologized today for showing up late to a meeting with war veterans.
You guarantee us that there's going to be someone there in every one of those places to look after us.
Well, you know, this finger pointing stuff doesn't really work very well with me.
The former soldiers wanted to discuss program cuts that affect their benefits and services. Several regional offices are scheduled to close down at the end of the week, including the one here in Thunder Bay. After an emotional exchange, Fantino walked away. Some of the war vets are calling for his resignation. Opposition members grilled Fantino during question period today. The minister said he regrets what happened yesterday and ignored further calls for him to step down. The Prime Minister also reaffirmed his support for Fantino. Well, there could be more legal trouble for Toronto Mayor Rob Ford. Ford is being sued by his sister's ex-boyfriend for allegedly conspiring to have the man beaten up. In a statement of claim, Scott McIntyre alleges Ford was behind an assault in the Toronto jail back in March of 2012. But Rob Ford's lawyer says the accusations are false.
The gentleman was injured at the Metro West Detention Center in March of 2012, and he believes the mayor had something to do with it indirectly.
What has the mayor said about these claims?
He hasn't said much because he's been busy all day, but for sure they're without factual foundation.
Have you had a chance to talk to him, the mayor?
Not really, because he's been busy all day.
Did the mayor conspire with Aidan Petros to have Scott McIntyre attacked in prison?
The answer is no.
Just mere days after being charged in Florida, international pop star Justin Bieber could now face a charge in Toronto. Sometime in the next couple of hours, the Stratford-born superstar is expected to surrender to police. John Lancaster has the story.
Mr. Bieber, you are charged with the following.
Less than a week after being charged in Miami with driving under the influence and resisting arrest, Canada's most famous pop star will be posing for more mugshots tonight, this time at Toronto's 52 division. Bieber is expected to surrender there in the coming hours, where he'll be charged in connection with an alleged assault.
The Biebs is here.
It stems from an incident on December 29th. Hours after Bieber and some friends were spotted at a Leafs game, a limo driver claims he was assaulted near University in Dundas. Bieber was a passenger in the limo at the time. Toronto police were called, an investigation launched, and CBC News has learned tonight Bieber has agreed to surrender, be fingerprinted, photographed, and formally charged in connection with the incident.
Oh my God, Justin just got pulled over.
Seemingly, the millionaire 19-year-old's pattern of unusual behavior has been escalating recently. There was last week's alleged drag race in Miami. Earlier this month, his LA mansion was raided by police investigating vandalism at a neighbor's home. Several entertainment websites have reported that Bieber's close friends and mother met with him in Panama this weekend, urging him to get his career back on track. In fact, today, Bieber released a new video, but the criminal charges here in Toronto may likely overshadow that. John Lancaster, CBC News, Toronto.
By Canadian standards, it was a light dusting, but a rare snowstorm in the southern United States overnight left thousands of people stranded on highways, in schools, and in grocery stores. Paul Hunter has that story.
For the U.S. South, it might as well have been the Ice Age all over again. Traffic jams like never before, with thousands of cars stuck even at 3 a.m. Children trapped in school buses and overnight in their classrooms.
I want to reassure all the parents that if you trust your teacher to take care of your child during the day, they will be taken care of tonight.
I was super scared. I was like, if I don't get home to my parents, I'm going to freak out.
But wait, some context. Consider the amount of snow that actually fell, roughly 6 centimeters. That's right, 6. Canada, this isn't.
And the thing about driving around in here is people down south don't know how to drive.
You can say that again.
People are not used to this. People are used to preparing for tropical storms. They know to board their windows and do those kinds of things. In this situation, there's very little that you can do.
But drivers, good or bad, and everyone else are now furious at their local governments. Not only are there too few snowplows, there was too little warning.
We can't control Mother Nature. Just as we could not make better predictions, neither could school superintendents. That's why the school children were in the situation they were in.
In short, say Southerners, epic fail, with the U.S. South now paralyzed by that epic storm, all 6 centimeters of it. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
To own a home in a hot real estate market can be out of reach for many families. But here's a creative idea from Vancouver. Kirk Williams met up with 2 families who are cutting costs by sharing one roof.
You might think putting on a dinner for 9 is a lot of work, but what if the job's divided up 4 days a week? That's how it works in this house, which is owned by 2 families.
We've been doing this for 5 years now, and so it feels so normal. And it's not until other people sometimes look at us and say, wow, you guys are crazy.
The Morays were getting bounced from rental home to rental home. Their friends, the Thrifts, needed a bigger home for a growing family, so the couples bought a house together.
And you have to take risks, and sometimes you have to do things that are uncomfortable, but the payoff is huge.
True.
The payoff? A home at just under 3,000 square feet, which they all bought for $800,000 in 2005, something they could never afford on their own.
Our family has this floor.
Each family has their own space. The Thrifts have the top floor.
But there's bedrooms, a playroom.
Inside.
The Morays have the basement, and both families share the living room, dining room, and kitchen. And the kids have a built-in group of friends.
We have separate areas, but then we can always play together if we want to. And we've got a nice big backyard which we can play in.
But there's also a lot of compromising.
Living with people is just hard because you don't get to do whatever you want, whenever you want, but there's benefits to it.
Benefits like sharing utilities, taxes, and renovation costs, built-in babysitting. But what if there's a divorce, a death, or a friendship turns sour? All of that is written up in a co-ownership agreement. And Van City says this type of mortgage is available to other potential buyers struggling with affordability.
A lot of parents don't necessarily want to give their children a down payment. However, they can invest in a property with their children with this arrangement.
Both families went into this deal to save money, but discovered a sense of community.
And the financial, driver is pushing us to it, but then a whole bunch of other things really talking through let us think, we think we can actually sustain this.
It's working so well, they say, they plan to stay together until the kids leave school. Kirk Williams, CBC News, Vancouver.
Let's take a look at activity on the market now. TSX dropped 44 points today, closing at 13,643. Dow also down 189 points to 15,738. The Nasdaq dropped 46 points, 40.51. Canadian dollar also down again. It lost another 18/100ths and finished the day at 89.46 cents US. Gold was up $11 to $1,262 an ounce, and oil dipped to 97.36 a barrel. After a strong second half last year, expectations were high this season for the Lakehead University women's volleyball team. Hasn't panned out very well so far, but they are playing better of late.
Yeah, they're slowly but surely starting to roll. It would be nice to spring the upset on Ottawa, which they happened to do last year, knocking them out of first place. But the critical series for them is coming up on the road against Waterloo. Those are two must-win games. So hopefully they can build some momentum tonight. Your Lakehead volleyball squad hasn't made it easy for themselves. They're 4 points back of Brock for the final playoff spot with only 5 games to go. 3 of those will be played this week as the club travels to meet a powerhouse Ottawa squad tonight before 2 games in Waterloo this weekend. Ryan Benazzo has more on the road trip and what they'll need to do to make the playoffs.
The Thunderwolves can do themselves a real favor with 2 or 3 wins on the road this week. It starts Wednesday evening in Ottawa, the first of 3 games in 4 nights for Lakehead.
It's a little bit different. Yesterday usually is our down day, and we usually just pass and kind of get back into the flow of things. And today is usually our getting into a peak day, but I think today we're going to be playing a lot more just to get ready for tomorrow.
I think every athlete likes to play more than they practice, so I don't think anybody's complaining about the fact that we've got 3 and 4.
Maybe not, but it might be nice to have a little more time to prepare for one of the OUA's top teams in the GGs, not to mention a tough-digging Waterloo team 2 days later. Lakehead did upset Ottawa last season at the Thunderdome, and while it doesn't buy them anything this time around, there are lessons to be learned from that game last February.
What that does for us is teach us that we can play a certain style against them, and we're going to have to do that. We're going to have to be prepared, and we're going to have to be mentally tough and physically tough against that team.
I think it's in the back of our heads, but I don't know if it matters that much this year. We're a different team. They're also a different team. I think they lost a couple players, so it's basically just a fight of who prepared best for this Wednesday night.
Lakehead has won just 4 times all season. They'll likely need to rattle off 3 or 4 wins in their 5 remaining games to have a shot at a second straight postseason. But that's okay, says Green.
We'd like to go after every game as if we need to win every game, and that's what we'll do.
Ryan Benazzo, TBT Sports.
Your Thunder Bay North Stars got a natural hat trick from Matthias Gardeman last night as they shellacked English River 6-0 in Near Falls. They're off to Fort Francis to face the first-place Lakers Friday night. Only 3 games in the NHL tonight. There is an outdoor game at Yankee Stadium as the Rangers take on the Islanders. Edmonton welcomes San Jose, and Vancouver gets ready to meet Chicago. Last night at the Air Canada Centre, second period off a Tampa turnover. Nazem Kadri gains the line, then unleashes his 13th goal over the shoulder of Tampa tender Ben Bishop. Kadri then will take a Joffrey Lupo pass, and he'll put a beautiful move in tight on the former Sens goaltender for his second of the game. Tampa rallies to tie it at 2 off the mad scramble in front. Mark Barberio beats Jonathan Bernier. It's his 4th career NHL goal. But with 4 minutes left in regulation, the Leafs top line wins it. Phil Kessel sets up James Van Riemsdyk, and his 21st makes the final 3-2. Next up in Montreal, Brendan Gallagher won't take no for an answer as he eventually stuffs in the rebound for his 14th. Habs snap a 4-game skid over Carolina 3-0 in Columbus. Jason Spezza finds Stefan DaCosta with a pass out. He had a pair, sends down the Blue Jackets 3-2. In Calgary, quite a difference in the standings between the Flames and Hawks, but you couldn't tell on this night. Overtime would be required. TJ Brody ends it with a wraparound. Calgary wins its 3rd in a row, 5-4, and in Winnipeg, they were knotted at 3 in the 3rd when Mike Fisher scores on the doorstep, and that would give Nashville the 4-3 victory. The Jets under Paul Maurice are now 6-2. A Thunder Bay native and professional golf instructor has received one of the PGA of America's highest honors. Jordan Young was presented with the 2013 PGA Player Development Award at a special ceremony last week in Orlando, Florida. The 42-year-old former city resident has been in charge of the Fox Hills Learning Center in Plymouth, Michigan for the past 7 years. Young has won numerous awards in his career, and he's now getting national recognition. The PGA Award was for his achievements in growing the game of golf in the U.S., and colleagues say Young has the ability to make sure kids improve their golf skills and enjoy the game at the same time, and they credit his ability to improvise and use new technology as his greatest assets.
Think outside the box. A lot of people that know me that I don't like to follow too many rules. You can ask my wife. I do think out of the box and do things a little bit different. Finally, just be innovative. Do things different. Make sure that you're doing things that people wouldn't think about. Never have anybody tell you that you can't do it.
The Thunderbolt Swim Club will host the Northwestern Ontario Championships this weekend at the Canada Games Complex. It starts Friday afternoon, wrapping up Sunday afternoon. Over 200 swimmers from across the region will take part. CFL News, the Toronto Argonauts have released quarterback Zach Caleros, allowing him to sign with any team. The team could also be sold soon to Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment or its chair, Larry Tannenbaum. We get more in this report.
To the goal, it comes in front.
The Leafs, the Raptors, the Marlies, and Toronto FC. Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment is sports royalty in this city, and now there's talk they'd like to add another jewel to their crown in the form of the CFL's Argos.
It would be very interesting. Obviously, it's been talked about that Argos have been struggling for a while, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Owner Dave Braley is said to be looking to sell both of his CFL teams, the Argos and BC Lions. If MLSC doesn't buy them, there's talk its chairman, Larry Tannenbaum himself, will. Whoever it is, it's likely the deal will leave the Dome, the home of the Jays, and only the Jays, with the Argos moving west to share games at BMO Field and practice space in Downsview with TFC.
It also makes sense on MLSC's side because they get another 8+ home games. Plus, it solidifies a position for MLSC in football, the only sport right now where they don't have a professional team. and that may bode well for them if they do intend to bid on an NFL team in the future.
I'm indifferent.
That's the Argos' main problem. It's been a while since they were a main event in Toronto, back when Wayne Gretzky, Bruce McNall, and John Candy owned the club, despite being the only team here other than the Rock to actually bring home recent championships. But there's some optimism with the recent direction taken by MLSE President and CEO Tim Lewicki. Most recently, the signings of stars Jermaine Defoe and Michael Bradley to TFC.
Lewicki has said he wants to bring winning teams. He's doing it on the court. He looks like he's trying to do it on the field. The one place he hasn't done it yet is on the ice, but the jury's still out on that one.
But what's just as uncertain is what new ownership could mean for the Argos. As for what the Argos organization itself has to say about all this, we're told that Dave Brayley is currently out of country on vacation, but the club did issue a statement to Global News saying simply that it is aware of reports of a potential sale, but right now they're not commenting. Mark Carcassol, Global News.
It was media day yesterday leading up to Super Bowl 48 Sunday night in New York. Denver Broncos quarterback Peyton Manning was asked if winning a second Super Bowl this weekend would cement his legacy as one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history.
Yeah, I've been being asked about my legacy since I was about 25 years old, which I'm not sure you can have a legacy when you're 25 years old or even 37. I thought you had to be like 70 to have a legacy. So I'm not 100% sure what the word even means. I'm still in the middle of my career. Let me rephrase that. I'm down the home stretch of my career, but I'm still in it. It's not over yet, and so it's still playing out. And this has been the second chapter of my career, and it's an exciting chapter. And I'm certainly excited to be back in the Super Bowl, on behalf of the Denver Broncos.
Lakehead wrestlers won the Queen's Open meet in Kingston this week. Scott Chisholm and Emma Horner won their weight classes. At the Junior Provincials, Ron Bingham was second in his division. The Toronto Raptors are back in action tonight, hosting lowly Orlando for the first time this season. The Raps are 23-21. The Phoenix Coyotes will be known as the Arizona Coyotes, starting with the next NHL season. Won't make a difference on the ice for them. Tampa Bay Lightning GM Steve Yzerman, former women's national team captain France St. Louis, and former university coach Claire Drake have been named to the Order of Canada in the Order of Hockey in Canada, I should say. And on that note, that'll do it for sports.
All right, thanks very much, Randy.
All right, you've seen them all over the networks. Canada now has its own cooking show, and trust me, you're not going to want to watch this if you're on a diet or if you haven't eaten recently. With more, here's a complete lineup on Teletalk.
Tonight we've got new love, good food, and family loyalty on Global Thunder Bay. Starting at 8 on Bomb Girls, Lorna takes dance lessons and becomes smitten with her instructor. At 9 on Chopped Canada, 4 chefs try to create a meal worthy of a $10,000 prize. And at 10 on Chicago PD, Atwater arrests a hoarder and Olinsky tries to protect his daughter. Over on CKPR Thunder Bay, we've got big deals in the making and a mystery to solve. At 8 p.m., 4 friends hope to get someone to go hog wild for their brew on Dragon's Den. And at 9 on Republic of Doyle, Jake meets a cop named Murdoch that he doesn't quite trust. Teletalk is brought to you by Points, the traffic ticket specialists.
Temperatures didn't get quite as high as we'd hoped for today, but I don't think anybody's complaining about the warm-up that we're going through right now. Unfortunately, Fiona, the good news ends there, doesn't it?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. It's not going to stick around for too long, but the good news is, even though every time it warms up, it cools down again, the cool downs don't seem to be quite as bad as the ones before. December seemed worse than January. Hopefully, January will be worse than February. You know, nice trend and go in the right direction. Today we topped out with a high of minus 13, a good 4 degrees below the norm for this time of year. And the wind chill started out at minus 31 and made it all the way to minus 17. So definitely a warming trend. And as we take a look at what's going on across the country, Vancouver today, a lot of sunshine after a very rainy night. Unfortunately, they've got more rain to come, and that is the norm for Vancouver at this time of year. They're currently at 7 Celsius. Cool day and a fair amount of snow in Edmonton and in Calgary, with temperatures a good 7 to 8 degrees below the norm for that part of the country. Cool down continues into southern Saskatchewan, Saskatoon at minus 17, Regina at minus 16, both with a fair amount of cloud cover, wind chill values ranging from about minus 23 to minus 25. Winnipeg, meanwhile, is currently at minus 15 under mainly clear skies, wind chill values about minus 25 for that part of Manitoba. And as we head into southern Ontario, Toronto, cool and clear at minus 12, which is actually a stark change from the last couple of hours. This afternoon, they had wind gusts up to about 50 kilometers per hour for about 4 or 5 hours. So they had a lot of drifting snow this afternoon. Ottawa and into Montreal matching those temperatures at minus 12, as is Quebec City with a little bit of light snow. And in the Maritimes, Fredericton, clear and cool at minus 13. Charlottetown and Halifax both seeing some light snow at minus 10 and minus 11 respectively. And St. John's currently at minus 7. The snowfall warning that we talked about yesterday is continuing right now. They've had snow all day. And as of now, they could see another 10 to 20 centimeters more by the end of tonight. So they are really going to get socked in southern Newfoundland. Now today we had a low move through, and we've got the buildup of potential snow for tomorrow through the Great Lakes and just north of us. So you can see we're kind of basically, it's skirting our region, and we're not looking to see too much from it. As it heads out, well, we've got another high pressure center with more flow from the northwest, but still not a lot of wind to go with it. So we're not going to see a lot of fluctuation in the temperatures. Now tonight, a little bit of light snow towards Red Lake. Most of it is already past Fort Frances, and the temperatures are hovering in the low minus 20s pretty much across the board to the west. To the east, little warmer. The cool air hasn't sunk in quite this far. Eastward, Greenstone at minus 17, Marathon matching that. Sault Ste. Marie, some light snow continuing at minus 15. And as we head into tomorrow, well, those temperatures are going to continue to hover a little bit milder because the cool air is just not moving across very quickly. The systems are moving, or the bodies of air are moving relatively slowly. So we've got minus 15 in Greenstone, minus 3 in Sault Ste. Marie. They're probably just enjoying that for tomorrow. But if we take a look what's happening to the west, our temperatures are in the teens, kind of on the high side, so a little bit cooler. This hour we're at minus 11. Wind chill really not much to speak of because the winds are only at about 9 kilometers per hour. Tonight, a couple centimeters of snow as that low moves through, and we'll be gone by tomorrow morning with a low of minus 15. We're going to start the day at that low with a wind chill about minus 23 to start. But we will top out with a high of minus 12, and that's pretty much where we're going to stay into Friday, Saturday, minus 11, Sunday, minus 12, minus 13 Monday. You can see very consistent, and as I said, winds are going to be relatively light, so the wind chill values will not be too uncomfortable for most folk.
And that sunshine will also be welcome.
A little bit of sunshine, a little bit of gray, but at least no minus 30s.
All right. Thanks very much, Fiona. Well, I'm sure most people agree you never know quite who you're going to bump into when you drop into your favorite watering hole for a beer. But some guests, well, they're just a little more special than others. That story for you when we return. trip to their neighborhood pub ended in a surprise royal visit for some locals in southeast England. Those lucky patrons got to have a pint with Prince Charles today. He and his wife, Lady Camilla, visited a local pub. They poured draft, even joined in a game of darts. Turns out Prince Charles is a member of a not-for-profit organization that supports rural pubs and community services. Look like they're having fun. Wonder if they bought a round. I'm betting they probably did.
I have a feeling they probably did.
Anyway, that'll do it for tonight's look at news, weather, and sports. A reminder for News on Demand. Join us at tbnewswatch.com. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you all again tomorrow.